Hey, my name is Thomas and the topic of today's video is: if you've got a nice standard prime lens, do you then still need a dedicated portrait lens? And to answer that question, I brought three lenses that you might already know from my other videos, and it's the two TT Artisan lenses, the 35 f1.4 and the 50mm f1.2, a standard and a portrait lens. And I've brought the 7Artisans 35 f0.95, a standard lens but with a super fast aperture, and as we know, super fast apertures make for super soft backgrounds, so maybe this is also a very good portrait lens. So let's find out. Here's the disclaimer of this video. I bought these two lenses for myself. 7Artisans, however, provided this lens for review purposes. I say thank you, 7Artisans. Nonetheless, of course, my review is going to be very objective based on my personal findings. If I wouldn't like this lens, I also wouldn't really use and feature it in my videos. So to approach the question, there are several points that we have to focus on. I'm not going to focus on the general image quality of these lenses because I already reviewed them all. And just to put it very shortly, they all are very capable lenses. They deliver sharp and contrasty images right at open aperture. Of course, not perfect, but really usable, and when you stop down you can even use all three of these for good landscape work. So quality is not the subject of this video. Instead of that, we're going to focus on background blur, the amount of background blur, the bokeh, the quality of the background blur, and the perspective that you get. And I set up a shot, we set up the camera on the tripod to make it super, sort of precise, and I took a portrait with all three of these lenses, and of course for the 50mm lens we set back the tripod a little bit so that my face on the shot has the same size as on the other two shots. And so the perspective is already a little bit different, but that's how you would use them in real life just as well. And note, by the way, that the TT Artisan 35 is a little bit wider than the 7Artisans 35. Let's maybe just start with background blur, the amount of background blur. And as you can see, as was expected, the 35 f1.4 has the least amount of background blur. Nonetheless, details are already pretty well washed out and soft in the background. The 35 f0.95, you really see a difference there. Background blur is really bigger, and with the 50 f1.2, background blur is even a little bit more extreme, but the differences are subtle. I would say if you wouldn't have the direct comparison, you maybe wouldn't really notice the difference between the 50 and the 0.95, 35. But the difference is there. And as expected, an f1.4 does the worst job here. Nonetheless, even those images look pretty well, if you ask me. And the second topic is the bokeh. Bokeh doesn't refer to background per se, it just refers to how beautiful it looks. So how does the lens render the soft background? In that respect, I find all these three lenses pretty similar. They do a pretty soft bokeh, but it's not as uber soft as with some more modern lens designs like, I don't know, Sigma art lenses or something like that. These are classic optical formulas, and they also don't deliver really fancy soap bubble like extreme bokeh, but they also don't deliver the super smoothness that some modern lenses might deliver. I personally prefer this classical rendering over more modern renderings, but that's a matter of taste. However, within the scope of this video, these three lenses in terms of bokeh, in terms of looks, they're actually pretty similar. And now comes the third thing, and that's really interesting. That's the perspective, and the perspective really means how the overall image looks to you. And here the difference between the 35s and the portrait lens is really striking in my opinion. I didn't really even expect that, I have to say, because 50 and 35, it doesn't sound like that big a difference. In full frame terms, 35 equals 52 and 50 equals 75. So it's even a pretty short portrait lens, so to say, because normally they would be 85 or even 90 millimeter. However, the difference is pretty striking. You see that with the portrait lens, the background really becomes more like an abstract, soft painting around the face. You really focus on the face in this image, on the subject. Whereas with the 35mm lenses, the background is included a little bit more. There is more context going on there. There's more a person within a context, within surroundings. In that sense, it even makes sense to maybe sometimes close down the aperture even more than f1.4, so you get more sharpness into the background, so the context becomes even stronger. But that depends on what there is in the background. The portrait lens, on the other hand, it really will always focus on the person and on the subject and on nothing else. That's a really striking difference, which already sort of answers our question. No, a 35mm, a standard prime lens, cannot replace a portrait lens. It just delivers a different perspective. The differences in bokeh quality or also in the amount of background blur are maybe not as striking as the difference in perspective is. This is a short telephoto prime, and you see it in the images. This is a portrait lens. However, these lenses also take gorgeous portraits. Personally, I even love 35mm portraits, but it's a matter of taste. If someone books me for a portrait shooting, of course I would just bring the classic portrait lens. So these two lenses cannot be replaced with this one lens. On the other hand, this one lens can also do gorgeous portraits. I hope you found this useful and interesting. If you did so, then please leave a like, and if you didn't do so yet, then also subscribe to my channel and hit the small bell button for notifications. It's a great support for my channel, and I really appreciate it. In case you've got any questions or comments, write in the comment section below. I love to read all your comments, and I will happily answer every single one of them. That's it for today. Thanks for watching Tom's Cameras. Live long and prosper. Have a great time, and I see you in the next video. Bye.